Hello, this is KYC News. We have provided you with relevant and reliable information for the day. First and foremost, we wish him good health and heartfelt desire. Here are the main points. Why was the Cptpp application from South Korea delayed? Why was the Cptpp application from South Korea delayed? Following the successful conclusion of the Korea-US free trade deal, the US invited South Korea to join the Trans-Pacific Partnership in 2010. At the time, South Korea was quickly becoming a center for FTA negotiations, engaging in numerous cross-regional FTA negotiations, including those with powerful and developed economies like the US and the EU. Surprisingly, though, it had decided against signing up for the TPP. In the meantime, South Korea joined the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, a 2012 launched mega-regional FTA. 2010 was recognized as the beginning of a period of competitive growth of mega-regional FTAs with the creation of RCEP. Furthermore, the Moon Jae-in administration in South Korea managed to come to an inter-ministry agreement in April 2022. The decision to apply for the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for TPP, Cptpp, the TPP's replacement after the US exit, was formally announced at this time. In light of this, why has South Korea not yet signed up for Cptpp? Understanding the development of South Korea's FTAs up to this point is necessary before responding to this topic. In order to embrace the worldwide trend of bilateralism, the Kim Dae-jung administration published the FTA promotion guidelines in 1998. This is when South Korea's history with FTAs began. The 1997 to 1998 Asian financial crisis, the competitive global rise of FTAs, and the stagnation of multilateral trade negotiations were some of the international circumstances that compelled the government to engage with FTAs. It was crucial to keep close economic ties with the rest of the world because of South Korea's high reliance on commerce. Since then, including the most recent agreement, the RCEP, South Korea has negotiated 18 FTAs with 57 nations. Uneven seas with FTAs. FTAs have not always been easy sailing for Seoul. Although South Korea's FTAs started to grow quickly in the early to mid-2000s, their fervor peaked in the middle of the 2010s, which is also indicative of South Korea's delaying its Cptpp membership. Furthermore, the nation's FTAs have grown in a variety of ways. This is partly because of the institutional framework that grants the president, who serves as the senior diplomat for a 5-year term, the right to negotiate trade agreements. For instance, South Korea vigorously pushed ambitious cross-regional FTAs with the US and the EU under the Roh Moo-hyun administration. Despite the fact that the FTA opposition provided political support for President Roh. Similar to other areas of government, trade governance is also prone to change based on the preferences of the individual president's agenda and the opinions of key individuals. A prime example is the Park Geun-hye administration's decision in 2013 to move the Trade Bureau from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, MOFAT, to the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy, MODI, with the goal of shifting the country's policy emphasis away from the promotion of simultaneous and multi-track FTAs and toward domestic industries. To this end, how leaders and officials view their domestic and global environments and make decisions based on this thorough assessment have been crucial in forming South Korea's FTA policies. The fact that South Korea lost out on the Cptpp shows how important the decision-makers' tastes and views have been in guiding Seoul's decisions in this regard. President Lee Myung-bak did not view joining the TPP as urgent in 2010. The administration was under pressure following the contentious passage of the Chorus FTA and was consequently reluctant to join another sizable pact headed by the US. President Lee feared that joining the TPP would rekindle the anti-American attitude that had dominated during the negotiations for the Chorus FTA. The argument that joining the TPP would not provide a clear, immediate economic benefit was also frequently brought up in local debates because South Korea was either negotiating or had bilateral free trade agreements with several important TPP members at the time. In order to maximize South Korea's position as a hub of FTAs, the administration chose to concentrate on negotiating an FTA with China. The Korea-China FTA, which attempted to strengthen South Korea's relations with North Korea, was another topic on which President Park concentrated. Reunification was President Park's top priority, therefore keeping cordial ties with China was seen as a method to exert influence over North Korea. Furthermore, the administration held the view that the TPP's economic benefits would pale in comparison to those of the KCFTA. Due to this policy concentration on China, diplomatic resources were diverted from the TPP. The move of the Trade Bureau from the MOFAT to the MODI at the time had already considerably reduced Seoul's ability to engage in trade negotiations. This institutional loss was made worse by the personnel resources that were diverted to the KCFTA discussions, the Chorus FTA, and the Korea-EU FTA. President Moon Jae-in, in contrast, believed that the Cptpp would be advantageous for the nation. The new Southern policy, as opposed to Cptpp, was the administration's primary concern. The newly appointed Trade Minister Kim Hyun-Thot's Chong significantly influenced the administration's early trade policies in the absence of the president's adamant preference for the Cptpp. In his previous role as Minister of Trade under President Roh, when Minister Kim placed a strong emphasis on negotiating FTAs with the US and the EU, South Korea's FTA network swiftly expanded. At the time, Minister Kim opposed the Korea-Japan FTA talks because he was negative about South Korea's relations with Japan. Under the Moon presidency, this perception did not change. Without US involvement, Minister Kim saw the Cptpp as a de facto FTA with Japan, and there was no motivation to sign on. Additionally, he believed it was premature to put South Korea's manufacturing sectors up against Japan. Furthermore, the deteriorating trade tensions in relations between Korea and Japan at the time increased this worry because Japan would demand the removal of forced labor compensation or the importation of agricultural and fishery products from Fukushima as a condition for entering the Cptpp. South Korea would also be required to cover the costs of joining the deal later by strictly complying to the Cptpp provisions. With the election of US President Joe Biden and the competitive applications for Cptpp membership from the UK, China, Taiwan, and Ecuador in 2021, the Moon administration started to pay more attention to Cptpp. The administration was, however, out of time to implement South Korea's long-delayed Cptpp application. At the same time, trade institutions' inefficiencies added to this decision-making process's slowness. Although criticism from interest groups was still taken into account throughout this process, their impact was more significant in deciding the terms of FTAs than in influencing South Korea's strategic choice of FTA partners. The Yoon Suk-yeol administration only began operations last month. Because of this, it is unclear whether the trade institutions would be reorganized. However, the Yoon administration has thought of returning the trade bureaus to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Yoon administration's strategy for dealing with the Cptpp issue is similarly unknown. The outlook, particularly with regard to South Korea's relationship with Japan, is far better than it was under the Moon government. Additionally, during his campaign for president, President Yoon has shown an interest in the Cptpp. The 110 national tasks released this month by Yoon's Presidential Transition Committee also include South Korea's accession to the Cptpp and the US-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPF, under the 98th mission of Proactive Development of Economic Security Diplomacy. As a result, the administration might observe Cptpp progress, which will need to get underway by finishing the last of the domestic reporting procedures to the National Assembly. The new administration's priorities and perception of interests will be crucial factors in determining whether South Korea's Cptpp application is accepted. Although the government's unwillingness to take on the interest groups could cause the date of its membership to be delayed given that Yoon's tenure has just begun, trade governance reform could also help increase the effectiveness of decision-making. Application of Taiwan as a facilitator. What effects does Taiwan's application to the Cptpp have on South Korea's application, and vice versa? Taiwan's application to the Cptpp has enabled South Korea to submit a bid to join the Cptpp before another window of chance closes. Seoul has used Taiwan's move as a point of comparison due to its similar economic strengths and shortcomings. South Korea has been debating whether or not to join the Cptpp for more than 10 years, while Taiwan is still far behind in its preparations. A level playing field for fair and open competition will be provided for Taiwan by entering the Cptpp, notably for its manufacturing sector, for instance, with nations like South Korea, which currently has numerous FTAs that cross each other and encompass more than 70% of its exports. In turn, this will improve Taiwan's standing in the international supply chains. In 2020, Dr. Sohyun Zoe Lee began teaching international political economy at Queen University Belfast. International relations, international political economy, free trade agreements, FTAs, and regional economic integration in East Asia and the Asia-Pacific are some of her academic interests. Through the study of interactions between various domestic parties, she is especially interested in the procedures and methods used in FTA negotiations. She collaborates closely with decision-makers and offers her knowledge on trade policies. 2018 through 2021, at the Institute of International Relations, China Foreign Affairs University, she worked as a postdoctoral scholar. Dr. Lee holds a PhD in International Relations from the London School of Economics and Political Science as well as an MA in Regional Studies East Asia from Harvard University and a BA in International Studies from Korea University.